Good morning, grade 10 theory students. Karen is back with another moment for, yes, you guessed it, theory analysis. What we want to do is to make sure that we can understand the different forms that we use when we are looking at classical music. And today you will find linked below two pieces of music. The first one I'm going to discuss is the Haydn. And when you print that out, you'll notice it's got 2 pages and we've got the words minuet and the word trio. As soon as we have minuet and trio, it's guaranteed that this is not going to be sonata form. And as a matter of fact, if we truly look at the questions, because I do suggest look at the questions to get hints from the paper. It says to name the key. Okay, we're going to call it A flat major. Name the overall form and place capital letters for this form directly on the score. Well, sonata form does not have capital letters at all. So right away, you know that you are to either rondo or ternary form. Now, minuets and trios, as we learned in grade 9 history, are in ternary form. As a matter of fact, it's called compound ternary because we've got form within form. So you are going to put a capital A right here at the beginning for the minuet and a capital B here. Our return of the A material is the da capo right here. That is how we get ternary form. Now, compound ternary means that there's form within form. So we have to get out the pencil again and say our minuet itself. We are just going to assess the first 4 lines here. And we need to put, it says small letters. So that means that we do a little A here. And we do a little B after the repeat sign. And then just like we did in our grade 9 dance assessment, where half the time it was a minuet, we look to see if the opening melody comes back and the A section, neither the beginning nor the ending, is returning in that second section. So that means that our form for the minuet is binary or simple binary. We are fine with that. Either one of those. And I'm just writing that down. Now, when we put our small letters on the next section, the error that many people do, and the conservatory is pretty generous about this and sort of turning a blind eye, but you cannot put little A again unless it's the same melody as the opening. And if it's the same melody as the opening, we wouldn't have a capital B there showing that it's something different. So that means at the beginning here, we put a little C because this is the A material. This is the B material. So now this is going to be the C material. When we go to page 2, we put a D after the repeat sign, and then we look to see if any part of the opening has come back. And indeed, this time we do have C material that returns right here, which means that we have rounded binary for the form of the second section, which is also called the trio. And now often there is a key change for the trio. Most of the time we even have a key signature change. Well, maybe not most, but some of the time. In here, when we look at this, it clearly begins in A flat major, ends in A flat major. So this particular little minuet and trio is just all in A flat major, but do expect there can be a key change with this. And sometimes they use the parallel minor so that if the minuet's in G minor, that the trio is in G major, for instance. So yes, closely related keys are common, but also parallel at this point. And we could ask you to do other things with this, but essentially that is the analysis of compound ternary. We probably would find some extra marks for you to search out, like finding some diminished 7th chords or putting some Roman numbers on. That is our Haydn excerpt. So now I'm going to try to see if I can get my Sonatina by Gurlitt up here. There we go. Okay, so the Sonatina by Gurlitt, as promised, these are going on about the grade 5 level of playing, and there will be videos where we will do some higher grade levels in case we end up looking at some more intricate pieces. Now, when we look at this Sonatina by Gurlitt, we can actually see that there is a repeat sign at the expected place. So the fact that this even says in the directions, this is a movement in sonata form, put the following terms on the sheet. So right off the bat, you don't have to guess when it's sonata form because we will give you your list of terms. That's kind of convenient. So the very first thing that I recommend people do is to put on the 3 main areas of exposition, which will go right at the very beginning above the moderato. The development will go after the repeat sign. And then we have to look to see where can we find the same melody as the opening, because the recapitulation begins with the opening in the tonic key. And I'm finding that at measure 62. So on the second page, I've got development here and recapitulation here. So obviously this is a very short development. Very short. Okay, so now what we can immediately do for the exposition is put theme 1 in A minor and just get in the habit of putting in and the key there, because people actually do know the answer to these things, but they forget to write them down. And if you put it on the score, but forget to fill in a blank, we do get to look at the score to see if you filled it in there. So if you make this a habit, you can't miss that mark no matter what. Now, we need to find the bridge next. And what we need to do is to say to ourselves, if we are in the home key of A minor, we are expecting the second key area to be the relative major of C major. So that means I need to look for the bridge to begin before the G sharps go away and we have G naturals. So I'm noticing that we have a G sharp right through to the end of line 2, but then in line 3, the G sharps disappear. So that means that our theme 1 must end and bridge start before that moment. So I'm looking at the score and I'm noticing that 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, at measure 16, we have a 5-7 to 1 authentic cadence in the key of A minor, followed by a rest in both hands. And then I notice that the melody of the bridge that starts in the left hand is the same melody that we had at the very opening. So we are putting the word bridge there. The bridge often, but not always, uses the material from the theme 1. Now we have to find a way for the bridge to sound like it's cadencing out and that we have a new idea coming forward for theme 2. When I'm looking through this, one part of the bridge will be in A minor and the other part will end in C major. Somewhere in there we are going to change, and I'm actually visibly looking at the score saying, oh my goodness, all the way along here my left hand is doing some simple stuff, chords, and then suddenly it breaks off into 16th notes. That's a visual clue that that is a new theme. Now, sometimes there's even a word like dolce or cantabile conveniently sitting there saying, hello, I'm your new theme, because a new mood or tone color is announcing a new theme. So we are putting theme 2A in C major in line 3 right here. Now I put that all there, and I put the capital T under the first note of that theme. And you can actually see that we can label the end of the bridge as what I call an elided cadence. That if we had phrasing on here, and I don't put it on because I'm asking you to look at the notation for your clues, and then when you get to looking in the practice exams and real exams, and there's actually dynamics and Italian terms on it, they are helpful. So this is learning how to do it by looking purely at the music. And if we had phrases on, this would be what would happen at this point. This note is the end of this area for the authentic cadence in C major, and it's also the beginning of theme 2A. Now, this looks a little bit crazy. It says that there's a 2A and a 2B. Yes, what happens in the classical period is frequently our great composers really had a lot of melodies in their head, and they tried to pack a lot of them into the same sonatina. And so often a key area is labeled with a number like 1 or 2, theme 1 or theme 2. But within that, we might have different melodies, and those are labeled with A, B, could be a C as well. So what we are looking at here is that when you are going through here, you can really see that it's distinctively on that period all about 16ths, and then right here we suddenly go to a syncopated idiom that it goes 8th quarter, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. Well, that is very distinctive. That is where our theme 2B, and I'm going to say right in C major, please. They don't usually ask for the key the second time in when there's a 2A and a 2B, but just in case, pop everything down. So that is how we got that first page to look. Now, when we go to our second page, we are sitting here going, well, the development starts right away. And we know that it is quite short. Yes, indeed it is. Let's look at the keys in here. The development is where the most unexpected keys will be. And when they ask you to do a search for something, color chords like diminished sevenths, dominant sevenths, different changes of keys, look in the development first and look in the bridge second, because those are the areas that are periods of movement and added tension, and thus more keys. So we can actually see that the opening of the development is based on that final cadence 5/7 to 1 at the end, the authentic cadence at the end of the exposition. So if we were asked what the source is actually 2, 3, 4, 45 and 46, bar 45, 46. Sometimes it's easier to say that than to say something like a theme that is 16 bars long and is only referring to 2 bars. So we look in here and we go, oh, look, that's the dominant 7th to 1 in the key of A minor. That is what this development starts with. And then it immediately goes to F major, and we've got another dominant 7th to 1. And we do it a couple of times in F major. Oh, we do it 3 times, and then we have a little linking passage, and you can actually see that once we get to 53, 4, 5, 6, 57, 58, we are holding tight with the whole idea that E is the most important note. We see it on every count 1 in the left hand and as the highest note of the right hand in those 4 bars. E is the dominant of A minor, which means that this is called the dominant prep, often shortened to V prep or Dom prep. And we draw a line like that to show that this is the dominant preparation area. What this does is after several keys, or as many as the composer has chosen that day, we end up with this little spot that is still chromatic, but it's stressing the E so often that when the main theme comes back in A minor, it actually sounds like, well, yeah, we're supposed to be there because that's just 5-1. So it's kind of an ingenious way to retransition yourself back home. So under recapitulation, we're putting theme 1 in A minor. And then we compare the recapitulation to the exposition, and we discover that our bridge comes in as expected, 098 at bar 78. And that theme 2A in C major is going to begin 1, 2, 3, 4 at bar 84. So this is what it looks like. Recapitulation, theme 1 in A minor, bridge right here. And then theme 2A, whoops, it's not in C major this time, is it? My goodness sakes. It is in the key of A minor. It is supposed to be in the home key. So make sure that you have this transposed to your tonic key. And then we find that we have theme 2B, again in A minor, in bar 96. And right there, we have a bit of a codetta because the cadence could end, if I play this to you, so that can all be one thing, and it sounds ended there. So that means this is our codetta. So now the question is, did we have a codetta at the end of the exposition? And look at that, we do. The last 4 bars are an exact match set for the codetta. And it says, name one more key other than those labeled above of C major and A minor, suggested, and this is where you would actually have to go, well, they must be referring to the key of F major in the development because that has not been mentioned before. And there we have a grade 5 sonatina movement that actually has a theme group instead of a simple theme. And again, we are using our knowledge. We understand what our cadences are, and I recommend that you label each one. On this particular example, they were saying for you to label each one. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. If there is no cadence at the end of something, though, it can't be the end of something. It's like English. If you don't have punctuation, we haven't ended a sentence. And it might end with a period or an exclamation mark or a question mark, but it still ends with punctuation. And that is what a cadence is. So if you don't have a cadence at the end of an idea, it's not the end of that idea. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. There will be other videos to come that help us with the analysis of grade 10 movements.